Thank you very much, Professor Chomia, uh, Rajkumarji, Mr. Mehra, and Sakalji, Lakshmiji, present dignitaries, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. So, the fact is that when you talk about crunch time, I look at the tenure, and I think in this tenure, the book probably has not mentioned Ukraine, because the book must have started being written much before. So Ukraine is what shows what India was going through. 22,000 plus people in a horrid situation. Two countries, you are friends with both, and you need to handle that. I don't think any country in the world would have faced this kind of crunch time. And Balakot to Pulwama to LAC to difficult neighborhood, few challenges are still ongoing. But meeting a challenge in the eye, you need a heart which is totally beating and committed to your nation. And that's what his leadership is all about. And that's what I can say when I compare so many other things. What's at stake? So stake is a continuation of a chair, or at stake is your reputation as a leader who stands for his people. And a person who stands for his commitment to his country is the gentleman whose picture has been pasted on the book cover. And that picture depicts his commitment, and as a person who's worked with him for a very long time, who's been watching him for a long time like a teacher, we all learn from people who we respect a lot. We all learn directly, indirectly, and they may not be your teacher who taught you in school and college, but as a student of politics, as a student who continues to learn from others in terms of strategy, warfare, nation building, there is so much to learn. And for me as a person who was pretty idealistic to begin with, continues to be, I felt you needed a man like Narendra Modi to build toilets in this country. What can be more strategic than that? Nobody ever talked about it, nobody ever discussed it, nobody ever felt it was important to discuss or to work. For sanitary pads, you needed a prime minister. I mean, come on, we are all talking about Balakot, the surgical strike, the LAC skirmish, Dokalam to whatever else. I mean, those are few episodes which have happened on our borders and which showed the commitment to the country. But far greater than that, I would say, what happened during Corona? Do you need anybody else to tell us what leadership has to be all about? The country was facing a challenge of vaccinating 130 million people, and we are not a rich country. We did not have the finance and the money, and yet we successfully vaccinated all, or at least 80-90%. That is the strength, and that is the strength of the commitment. So when you're talking about crisis, I feel not to say the least about how Dr. Sriram has analyzed the hard battles which have been fought and which of course were very challenging. But I would say on the softer side of polity, I think for me Corona was the biggest challenge. For me, getting 22,000 students from Ukraine was a challenge. For me, what happened that our people were not being boarded in Iran because they were not able to test so many of them. So we sent a full-fledged lab there and had our people tested, boarded them, and left the lab for them to use. Now, that's leadership. That you understand the challenge of the situation, you pull in your resources, and when you're done with your requirement, you give it away to others also. During Corona, again, when we were able to deal with the situation comparatively, we were not really hard hit in the first go, though we had the vaccine and we started vaccinating. A lot of people objected with, I would say, good intentions that people should not get vaccinated in time. But when those objections were coming that I'm not a guinea pig and we are not lab rats, so on and so forth, he was busy giving those vaccines to the countries who wanted it, who needed it. Sometimes as an aid, sometimes as a grant, sometimes charging the cost, but it was made available. Hydroxychloroquine was needed, it was made available to our friends also. And when we fell in difficult phase during Delta, at that time, I think everyone here should know that India's capacity to use medically required oxygen was 982 metric tons. That's what the country used to use before Corona. For entire country's usage, it was 972 or 82 metric tons. And from there, within a span of 10 days, because Mr. Modi intervened, we started to produce 10,000 metric tons within a period of 10 days. That's the strength of leadership. Because he, as a person, could talk to private players, told them, look, your iron and steel business can take a back seat. Country needs oxygen, please start making it. And everybody started making it because people had that faith in him. I think the biggest challenge for a leader is that people need to have faith in you. And when people connect with you and have faith in you, they stand by you because they understand. I think human nature understands the goodness of a soul. Human nature understands the strength of a good soul also. So when you are doing and you are pitching yourself up against a difficult task and you are invoking the God in every human being that let's all work together, let's get this done. 10,000 metric ton is what India produced. And then transporting that 10,000 metric ton across the globe, across the country, from eastern side, because most of our iron and steel smelting businesses are in the eastern front of the country. It had to be transported to west, to north, to south, to wherever. So you needed cryogenic tankers to everything else. And lo and behold, through ship, through Air Force, everything was managed and arranged. And that's the kind of logistic chain management happened during COVID. Operations. It was like a military operation. I mean, I see some generals sitting here who are experts in this field, but understanding it from a perspective of a civilian. What amount of challenge and the amount of coordination which must have gone into all this. And we were a country where we are not used to wearing masks. We are not used to making masks, but we did it all. N95, I remember the cost. The first time when the first N95 had to be purchased, it was about 1,200, 1,400 rupees per mask. And then we started having Shwas, which was produced by IIT Delhi. Every lady who knew stitching was stitching up masks wherever. That's the quality of a leadership. And I think he has the capacity to move from one crisis to the other and use all that crisis situation to build the country. And in political language, when I remember we were contesting 2014 elections, and the kind of faith we had in his leadership and the kind of skeptics we were dealing with. And when we were dealing with those skeptics, I remember I used to say one sentence. I used to say, you keep throwing stones at him. And his qualities, he'll pick up every stone and construct a wall. That's his strength. And I think people who study him or wish to study him, they need to understand the challenge-taking capacity and delivering on time is what this person is all about. So thus, I think the crunch time will exhibit some of those challenges which he, under his leadership, has faced, and what could happen to the country, and how those challenges have been managed, contained sometimes maybe prolonged, but haven't escalated, and managing that bit is what requires a sane leadership to work for the country. And whenever, especially, coming from MOS External Affairs, I would say the challenge is that the foreign policy is our foreign policy, as was mentioned before. It's for our benefit, for our country. It's not for anybody else. We have to deal with our challenges. We have to deal with our neighborhood. We have to deal with our poverty situation. We have to deal with our energy situation. And these are the people of this country who vote for us, who want government to stand up for them. So what happens elsewhere in the globe is of little importance on one side. On the other side, my argument, that's not the government stand, that's like a true lawyer speaking. My argument would be, who has been on the right side of history? Let's analyze. How many wars have been fought in recent years? By whom? Let's analyze. So, India is at least one country which has not done any of that. And we need to protect our interests because we are answerable to 130 million people. And their well-being is what we need to be focused on. And this is what the crunch time, I think, has tried to showcase.